All right, fam. Welcome to another episode of Heat Check Radio. Keep in mind that anything I say in this episode, prior episodes, and future episodes is just my personal opinion. Don't take it as fact. Don't take it as law. Always do your own homework and come up with your own conclusions. Right about now, fam, I should go ahead and tap that like button for your boy. If you're new to the channel, I want to say welcome. Come on in. You can join the congregation by smashing that subscribe button and requesting all post notifications. And if you are an existing supporter of this channel, fam, I appreciate you more than you can possibly imagine. You are the reason this channel is anything. All right, fam, let's get this episode rolling. So look, the topic of this video today kind of emanates from conversations that I've had in the past. Some private conversations, some in the various content that I put out on various platforms, whether that's my 2A NLA channel or whether that is on Instagram or Reddit or wherever the case may be. And everybody seems to have an opinion. Right? What is a real shooter? Has been the question that I've asked in the past. I think if you talk to competition shooters, they will say, oh, it's about your proficiency, your marksmanship, if you will, with the firearm, particularly shooting at speed, your gun handling ability. What are your split times? What are your draw times? How accurate are you when you're shooting on the move, right? And a lot of times they'll base it on things like that. A lot of times they'll base it on whether you're a C, B, A, Master, Grandmaster class shooter, right? And that's the standard that they kind of apply to what a shooter is and what a shooter isn't. Conversely, if you look at tactical training and tactical shooters, particularly I'm thinking military, law enforcement, etc., people who kick down doors for a living and shoot, in theory, for a living, right? They are much more about tactics and completing a mission under the threat of return fire. And that dynamic shapes how they move, right? And I think while certainly some things are transferable from competition shooters to tactical shooters, and some things from tactical shooters to competition shooters are transferable, I do think they are separate disciplines. I think if you enter the tactical world as you would a competition, you're likely not going to come out alive. Because in the tactical world, if you are not focused on concealment in terms of you being able to guard yourself as well as being able to getting shots on target, then you are likely not going to make it out. If you aren't tactically sound, you may be highly proficient with your firearm, but that proficiency lacking tactical considerations is a recipe for disaster, and the worst kind of disaster, right? Conversely, some of the skills that go into tactics would be transferable into competition, but will not likely lead or lend themselves to you competing at a super high level, because in certain instances, having a mic or a missed shot or something like that may be strategically advantageous in a competition setting, but would be totally unacceptable in a tactical or law enforcement setting. And then in the middle of both of these disciplines, I think is where most of us live, which is the kind of prepared citizen perspective, where you're really more concerned about self-defense. And I see it from all angles, fam. I see a lot of competition shooters having a certain level of arrogance Not all. I want to make it clear, not all. But there's a small percentage of competition shooters who come off arrogant, who come off as if they're gatekeepers to the 2011 platform or shooting platforms and whatnot. And I think they're really missing the boat on that, because I think what they fail to understand is that competition shooters represent a minuscule percentage of the people who own guns in this country. I want to say there's over 100 million gun owners in this country, and I'll try to put the stat up there to reflect the actual number or the actual approximation. And I want to say at last check there was somewhere in the ballpark of about 30,000 to 35,000 USPSA competition participants, right? And so no, 30,000 people don't get to establish the standard for 100 million. I think that's ridiculous. And I think a lot of I won't say a lot, some competition shooters feel like if you're not active in the sport, if you don't meet the standard in their sport, you are somehow not a shooter. I think that is preposterous, right? But I do think there is a lot of things that can be gleaned for the tactical shooter and the prepared civilian from competition shooters. I think from competition shooting, I think that both of them would gain something by being exposed to that. Similarly, I think in the rare instance that tactical shooters have to engage, they would benefit with some of the firearms handling and shooting skills that exist in the competition shooting world. And as somebody who has gone to the range and been at the range next to people who are in law enforcement, I can tell you, just because they carry a gun for a living does not mean that they are phenomenal shooters by any stretch of the imagination. That said, though, if they are well trained tactically, then that is less of a concern, right? The shooting part is just a small part of what a tactical shooter is required to do, where it is the preponderance of what the competition shooter does. And then there is the prepared citizen. And here is where I think this component is the most difficult of the two, because I think here there are so many things at play. Again, shooting being a minuscule overall part of that. Prepared citizens are should be much more focused on situational awareness, seeing trouble before it arises and avoiding it. They should be much more focused on de-escalation tactics, right? And things of this nature. How to avoid getting in a shootout. And their training is going to be much more defined. They're not taking long distance shots potentially like the tactical guy is, or even the competition shooter who's shooting from 25 yards out. No. If you're likely engaged in a citizen's shooting incident, you're probably looking at, kind of 5 to 10 yards kind of max in distance there, right? And so again, I think the three categories are distinct and separate. And what you need to do is to be highly skilled for your use case, right? You need to be highly skilled for your use case. If you are a competition shooter, then your accuracy and speed are likely, and your ability to plan a stage are the most important facets of what you're doing. Certainly gun safety plays a part in all of these, so that's a given. But in terms of your maximum effectiveness. What really matters the most is your speed, your accuracy, and your ability to execute a stage plan, right? If you're a tactical shooter, and certainly I don't come from a law enforcement background, so I have less experience there, but you're much more focused on like team-based operations, communication, the use of cover and concealment, movement while under fire, threat identification, duty, and kind of gear, right? Those things are far more important in that world than just the actual handling of the firearm. And so again, that's why I say the use cases for these two are very, very different. And again, if you are a prepared civilian, you should be taking some from all of these places. You should be mindful of kind of the concealment aspect of it, being able to identify a threat and things of that nature. You need a little bit of the technical aspect of firearms handling, but you do not need to be a grandmaster, master, or even A-class shooter to be a highly, highly effective, prepared citizen, right? And so I think a lot of times these things get convoluted, they get jumbled up together. People have a tendency to bash the others. You know, I see prepared civilians laugh at competition shooters because they're like, yeah, when something breaks off in the street, there's no beep. There's no shot timer to tell you when to start shooting, right? And the mic that's acceptable, that missed shot that's acceptable while you're trying to achieve your highest score on a particular stage could be and could result in an innocent civilian getting hit and you winding up in handcuffs. And there's validity to that. There's validity to that. Also, I think that, competition shooters are right in the sense that you need to be proficient in handling your firearm. You need to be comfortable with drawing from concealment. You need to be comfortable with being able to index the gun and get it on target quickly and being accurate with your shot placement. Those things come into play. I would also tell you, as someone who has been in environments on more than one occasion coming up where I've been shot at or around, that the fear and the sense of danger, or whatever it is, the emotional perspective that comes with hearing a bullet whiz by your head cannot be simulated in a match. It just can't. And I don't care, until you are in that type of situation, you have zero clue as to how you are going to perform under that particular set of circumstances. All the training in the world in terms of competition shooting cannot prepare you for that mentally. And I'm sure anybody who does this for a living would tell you the same. So anyway, fam, I just wanted to kind of talk that through. All right, fam, so at the end of the day, look, just some practical takeaways from your boy 2A in LA. Train for your likely reality. This is what I've conveyed to people in other instances. Train for your use case. What are you more than likely going to be faced with, and train for that. And make sure you're proficient enough with your firearm and with the other tactics that you are prepared for that, whatever that is. Don't confuse speed for survivability. This is what I'm talking about with the competition shooters who are all concerned about their build drill time and their splits and their draw times. I mean, that's cool, but don't mistake speed for survivability. Like I said, you know, the best ability in the real world is to avoid engagement to begin with. So situational awareness far more important. De-escalation techniques far more important, right? Being savvy medically far more important. Don't confuse speed for survivability. Don't confuse gear with capability. That's the other thing. I think everybody oftentimes gets consumed with do I have the high speed gun? Do I have the high speed optic? Do I have the high speed flashlight? Do I have the high speed gear? But if you're not proficient at those things, then it really doesn't matter. And how do you judge proficiency? You judge it based on your use case. And at the end of the day, you just have to ask yourself, what problem am I preparing to solve? If you're trying to solve how to become a grandmaster and you're a D-level shooter, then you're going to want to focus your training on that. If you are in a tactical situation and you need to learn how to survive engagements, then you need to be highly trained in tactics, right? And as a prepared citizen, you need a little bit of all of that. All right? That's it for this episode, fam. Until next time, as always, take care of one another and peace.